No one wants to send their own children into the front lines. So what are we going to send? Autonomous systems. Does that guarantee that the US government cannot access them? I doubt it. These are all stories that I've never told before, right? I've never talked about the safari. I have to disillusion the public. This is not going to happen.
So, hello to everyone watching this interview. Today we are with Professor Dr. Daniel Cremers, who is the head of computer vision and AI at the Technical University of Munich. Daniel, thank you very much for your time for us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Nissan.
Before we jump in the interview, maybe a quick bit on yourself would be amazing for our viewers. And then I have a lot of questions prepared for you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm originally educated as a physicist and mathematician and then turned into AI in the late 90s. And so I've been working in this field of artificial intelligence since the late 90s. And I've seen the rise of the deep neural networks and lots of the massive breakthroughs that have revolutionized our world today. And I've been at TU Munich for more than 15 years now, building an ecosystem, bringing a lot of talents here, building competence centers like the Munich Center for Machine Learning that really, try to bring together all the talents in the Munich ecosystem to build the next generation of AI research and technology.
Impressive. Daniel, before we jump in the actual questions, when we are talking to our users, and I think you have seen in the market the same, people think that the ChatGPT moment 3 years ago was the beginning of AI. How old is AI?
That is a very good question. Somehow this dream of creating machines that exhibit some form of intelligent behavior is, if you want, you can say it's as old as humanity itself, right? You go back to pioneers like Leonardo da Vinci and you can see what drove them at the time was to create machines that support humanity, that can do intelligent things, and there was a lot of ingenuity that humans dedicated to doing that for centuries, right? And so, often people think AI is a completely recent phenomenon. It's not. You can trace the origins back to the beginnings of mankind, right? And to the human endeavor to build tools that will facilitate life. And that's essentially what we do today in the same way.
And would you say that 3 years ago with the ChatGPT moment, the AI just got mainstream?
So definitely AI got much more mainstream. When I started in AI, artificial intelligence in the late 90s, I had to always explain to all my friends what I was doing. They said, what the hell is computer vision? And I had to explain them. Computer vision is making machines see like we see as humans, right?
Yeah.
Understand the world from cameras, from our senses, right? This is what defines us as humans, and this is what we're trying to reproduce in a machine, right? And nowadays, I don't have to explain anymore. So that's a bit nice that if I say I do computer vision, I do AI, everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Awesome. As you mentioned in the intro, you said you have a background in physics and maths, moving to computer vision, computer science, AI. With these two different worlds, I would say, though they are interconnected, but maths and computer vision, where do you see the central point for AI in this? How is your experience working and accelerating it?
So for me, AI is a natural research area to tap into when you have a more mathematical background. People don't see that. They often see that we train a neural network or something like that. But what's underlying it is mathematics ultimately, of how you define loss functions for neural networks, what kinds of algorithms do you deploy to train a network. And sure, now we live in times where there's a lot of off-the-shelf tools that people can use. So it becomes a mainstream commodity to do AI. But, we still work on the foundations, and people think the foundations are solved, but it's far from it, right? To give you an example, nowadays you train neural networks with loss functions that are not convex, which means the loss has a lot of local minima. The algorithms people deploy are gradient based, and everyone in calculus 101 knows that this will likely get stuck in local minima. And indeed, training a neural network will typically lead you to some locally optimal solutions. How good these are, no one knows, right? So there's still fundamental research that needs to be done, and that is being done as we speak, right? And that requires tons of mathematics, of course.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is that a lot of today's AI with OpenAI, Anthropic, Mistral, and other solutions, most people see the developers, the tech guys, let's call it like this, as the behind. But you think, and you say it's like the consortium of physicists, mathematicians, engineers, and everyone coming together to build this AI.
Yes. That's very important, that it's multidisciplinary and we need everyone's expertise and it's complementary. And I know, coming from math, from physics, now being in computer science, working with people from engineering and other disciplines, everyone has a slightly different language, a slightly different approach to things, but we need all of it, right, to make things happen. And we need the foundations. And I think the public often has this misconception that it's the Googles, the Metas, the OpenAIs that create AI. No, they build on the foundations that we have created for decades and that we are still creating as we speak. For example, right, people use what's called backpropagation learning to train neural networks. If you have very large models, that is slow and tedious, and it takes weeks and weeks and gazillions of dollars of electricity bills to train them, right? We've developed alternatives. There's one technique we call proximal backpropagation. And indeed, to my knowledge, the big models are often trained with exactly these algorithms that we've been developing, right? So that's where our innovations come in and help the big tech companies build what they do.
Before Daniel coming to the question regarding like your worldview on AI, I just came across a very interesting question from your conversation. You said bigger and bigger models. This is a question which has been asked with many experts, and we haven't gotten, let's say, the right response. I'm going to throw the question on you now. At what point we will reach the ultimate AI? Because bigger and bigger does not also mean better and better.
Exactly.
So what's the threshold like there?
Yeah. So I think the public often expects that we will find the ultimate AI, the one tool that does everything. This will never happen, right? So I have to disillusion the public. This is not going to happen. And ultimately, artificial intelligence is a big toolbox of lots of different tools, right?
Yeah.
And it's like a handyman, right? And every handyman knows if you have a screw, you take the screwdriver, and if you have a nail, you take the hammer, right?
Absolutely.
And somehow this, and sure, you can hammer the screw into the wall with the hammer, but it's not going to be the optimal solution, right?
Absolutely.
And much in the same way, you can solve everything with a convolutional neural network. It's likely going to work, but it will not be the optimal solution. To give you a concrete example, if today I sit down in my car and I want to drive from Munich to Hamburg in the shortest way, I ask my navigation system. Guess what? It's not running a neural network to find the shortest path. There are shortest path algorithms that are optimal for this problem, and so you take whatever is the optimal tool. And this is what's the same in AI, right? So, and this will always be the case. So whether it's LLMs or foundation models or world models, this hope that there will be one model that does it all, it's just not ever going to happen, right? And so we need to promote diversity as well. And this is, I'm in close ties with the ministries. The national ministry visited us 2 weeks ago, and they said, should we build a national foundation model, a national world model? And sure, we can invest in all these technologies, but expecting that there's going to be one tool that does it all, it just won't happen. And so we need to promote diversity. We need to also invest into the next generation, right? Not just put all our money on an LLM if that may at some point be obsolete. And so we have to keep our eyes open for what's coming. And there are startups who are very good at that. Your startup, for example, DeepMask, they see the next things coming and they integrate things in a way that is quite amazing.
Just for the viewers, this is not sponsored, so this is coming from your heart, right?
Yes.
One interesting questions to you, Daniel. You travel the world on a regular basis, from China, South Korea, Japan to the Asian markets. You were in London last week. US, you go frequently. You meet a lot of diverse people,
Yeah.
from researchers to C-levels to normal engineers.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see AI headed to from your perspective?
So this is a question I often get. I often sit on panels about the future of AI, and everyone expects me to say, where does the future lie? And the other day I was on a panel with Jan LeCun, and so Jan, he advocates his JEPA models and says that's the future. And, you know, I tend to be less missionary. I think the future is multifaceted, and you know, there are different challenges in the future that people are tackling. And I think JEPA models are one step forward, definitely, but there are also other steps forward that I think are important. And so I always promote diversity. And ultimately, you know, I always like this quote from Mark Twain, who said, predictions are difficult, in particular when they involve the future.
Wow.
And so I think there's some truth in that. We cannot see the future. And ultimately, what I see is often, you know, you expect the senior experts to tell you where the future lies. It is the young generation that will build this future. And so I ask my students where the future lies, and I think they often have much better view of what's coming next.
If you have to pick 3 industries where you think AI will have the most impact, what will be your top 3?
So AI is already having and will have a massive impact in areas like healthcare and medicine, right? Personalized medicine, where we can tap into all the data about you as a patient, your blood profiles, the different imaging scans that you can make, your history, all of that can be factored in, and in a way, and then AI can extract patterns and information out of it and can offer the optimal treatment for you in a way that no human expert ever can, because you don't have the capacity to see all this data and to correlate it with similar data from other patients around the globe in a way that machine learning can do it, right? So this is a big area, medicine, AI. Another big area is autonomous systems, also defense, right?
Yeah.
We live in very difficult times where especially Europe has to build its own defense capabilities. And obviously, no one wants to send their own children into the front lines. So what are we going to send? Autonomous systems. And they need intelligence to really understand what they're supposed to do and to do the right things and not the wrong things. You want to minimize collateral damage, and that means your intelligence algorithms have to be very smart in understanding complex environments. And this is where, for example, we are doing a startup called SE3, and SE3 is building autonomous systems for the future, for the European defense, right? The third area, I think there's many areas where AI plays a role. Also on social sciences, it plays a role, but financial markets, the legal system is completely being revolutionized. For example, in our startups, when we want to draft contracts, legal contracts with partners, you know, you used to go to a legal firm and you'd pay them days and days to generate contracts. You know how it is. I know exactly how DeepMask is doing it. You ask an LLM to create a draft of the contract, and you'd be surprised how strong these LLMs are, especially if, like in DeepMask, you have access to all of them.
Exactly. And this is something which my team and I, we are also kind of more doubling down on, that how we can enable normal users, like the whole hierarchy of a corporate, from the back office to the C-levels and the stakeholders, shareholders, personalized tools for them. That you have a toolkit for you as a C-level and a toolkit for the back office or the sales managers, etc. Coming back to the SE3 you mentioned, how do you see the data privacy, data security in those areas? Because if you have an autonomous defense system, a leakage in the data or even the personal data is a big
Is a
issue.
disaster, of course, yeah. So especially in defense, but also in many other fields, you need privacy. You need to make sure that whatever data you have cannot be accessed by other powers, right? And often I see we live in times where the big US companies offer their cloud solutions, and we've had them here at TUM, and they offer their solutions, and then they will say, oh, it's all safe and privacy preserving because our servers are based in Europe. Well, I don't know. Does that guarantee that the US government cannot access them? I doubt it. This is a US company after all. And so ultimately, if the US government wants to access data, they can, right? And so it's important to really assure sovereignty and autonomy and privacy in Germany, in Europe. And this is one of the challenges, I think, where DeepMask is offering great solutions, right? Solutions where things are really hosted in Germany by German companies so that there is no issues with privacy.
That's what we made us as the core from day one.
Yeah.
That the European cloud infrastructures are also in the phase where they're evolving.
Yeah.
They're getting better and better. However, for a startup like us, which has a full focus on security of the data of the customer, this is very important that our applications and the data residence is not with an American cloud.
Exactly.
We are still inclined to using the services, like the APIs from Azure, AWS, Bedrock, etc. But the core or the foundation, that should be in Germany or Europe.
Yeah.
That's the
So exactly, the knowledge that you put in your personal private data, that should stay private, and this is guaranteed with what you offer, right? There is another important challenge that I see. A lot of my team members, both at TU Munich, but also in the startups, AC3, they're using LLMs massively, right? But as we all know, there is a multitude of different LLMs. The question being, which one do you use? And there are multiple challenges. The first one is, do you want to buy a license for each of these individually? One for Claude, one for Gemini, one for Grok, one for, you're paying tons of money for all of these licenses. And then there's the next thing, right? What if in the middle of a thread of conversation with an LLM, you realize the LLM I'm talking with is too stupid to do what I wanted to do, right? This is something we notoriously face. I had this the other day. I wanted to convert my lecture from LaTeX to PowerPoint, and it has a lot of math equations in the LaTeX, so it's not trivial to do it. I started with ChatGPT. It was a disaster. It said, yeah, sure, I can do it. And then some mumbo jumbo comes out, and I think, no, you cannot do it, right? And then I tried Gemini, and it said, well, I can do it, but I'm not allowed to output PowerPoint, right?
And the copy-pasting of all context back and forth.
So I had to always start from scratch again every time I talk to a new LLM. It's like you have different people that come in the room independently, right? And whereas what you'd really want is all these LLM experts that support you, they should all be sitting in the same room together.
Absolutely.
And they should listen to the conversations, and they should engage whenever they can, right? And what does that require on the technical level? It requires to share the content, right? Absolutely. The content window and all of that that you put in, that this is not lost every time you switch from one LLM to another one.
So we are subscribing you to DeepMask then. You just explained what we do.
That's exactly so. So indeed, DeepMask offers that functionality, and I think that is quite amazing. So that I don't have to start from scratch and re-explain to the next LLM what I just wanted to do, right?
Because the AI should make your time safe so that you can invest that time on things which matter rather than shifting and copy-pasting context.
And in my experience, there is not one LLM that is the best, right? No. It depends on what you do. Certain LLMs are better for reasoning, certain are better for language generation, certain LLMs are better for image generation, etc. So depending on what you do, you will choose the right LLM, but sharing the context window is vital so that you don't have to start over and that everything is kind of consistent. So you really want these different LLMs to work hand in hand. And that's the thing that DeepMask is offering. So I think this is quite amazing as an achievement.
What we also envision and moving towards is that currently the venture capital is heavy invested in companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, and all the others. So even the AI you are receiving with ChatGPT or other solutions is basically somebody's paying for it. 90% of the actual cost is paid by investors at the moment.
Mhm.
2 to 5 years, when these companies will go IPO or they want to make profits,
Mhm.
the actual AI cost will then hit the end user.
Mhm.
That's why we also have a very strong focus on open source and our own infrastructure, because we can stay in the market with a consistent cost.
Mhm.
To just give an example, if one query on Claude Opus, one of the leading
Mhm.
models, is costing you 10 euros,
Mhm.
the same query on a Chinese Minimax open source hosted securely is 1 euro. So it's
Mhm.
a 1/10 of a cost.
Mhm.
And I think more and more companies will move into cost saving
Yeah,
with AI rather than AI budgets going
through
uh,
the roof.
through the roof. Exactly.
Exactly.
That's where we are now coming to the, let's say, the epicenter of our whole
Mhm.
conversation. Um, as a company, we are very much interested in the artificial general
Mhm.
intelligence,
Mhm.
or AGI.
Yes.
Every expert has their own views. What's your view on AGI?
So I'll be very honest, Hisan. For me, terms like AGI are buzzwords that are completely overloaded. And I think as a society, we should a little bit keep away from the big buzzwords, whether it's AGI or world models. You know, when you go into the scientific community, you find everyone has a completely different notion of what a world model or what AGI is, and at what point artificial intelligence becomes general or not general. I think this is overrated. You know, I think we should just focus on improving artificial intelligence
Mm-hmm.
technology and not mess with too much buzzwords and the hype that they create, right? I see that quite a lot. Investors, for example, are very fan of what's the next big thing, and let's put all our money there, and let's put billions on JEPA models, or billions into AGI, or billions into world models. What you call these models, and I think it's ultimately just buzzwords, right? In the end, we want to improve the algorithms and their power and capability. And whether you call it general or not, I don't actually care, right?
This is exactly what we also believe as a company, that
Mhm.
the artificial word itself is taking away the intelligence of humans.
Mhm.
Coming to a bit of outside the topic question to
Mhm.
you now, Daniel. I know you have kids, and they are in an age where in next 10 to 15 years, they will be part of the workforce. And when they enter the workforce, compared to us, they will have AI systems, agents, and whatnot, right?
Mhm.
How are you basically suggesting or educating your own kids that what kind of mix of AI they should use, they should learn, should they not use it at all? What's your feedback on that?
So here's my most important recommendation to my children and to the world at large, and that is, one should not be afraid of the innovations that are coming. One should not be afraid of AI. One should grasp the opportunities, the possibilities that come with it. Obviously, there are some concerns, some things one has to pay attention to, but I think we should grasp these opportunities. So my recommendation to my children, and they already do it, is if there are AI tools, the different LLMs, use them, try them, see what they can do, see how far they can support you
Mm-hmm.
in what you do. Obviously, ultimately, you have to figure out for yourself what you want to do
Yeah.
in this world, what you want to achieve in this life, right? But once you have an idea of what direction you want to go, see how all these amazing tools can help you do it, can help you boost your output, your performance. And they can massively if you're open, if you embrace these opportunities, right? And if you're not afraid and shy away from what is already there and what is coming. And so I think an open mind is important for children,
That's a very
and
good
not
topic.
being afraid. And I'm very happy to see that my children are not afraid of things. They're not afraid of going out and trying things and exploring the world. And humanity has always done that, and we should continue doing it.
Somebody recently asked Jensen from NVIDIA, Jeff Bezos, that what would be the key skill in the future, in the age of AI. And majority of them, they said emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
feeling the other person's attitude,
Mhm.
or the psychological side. One last question on this is like a bonus question for our viewers. There was a debate recently that the AI will get so smart that humans will look not so smart. in front of the AI. And then most researchers said, no, this can never happen because human intelligence is above everything. The second argument, which sadly is true, they said, okay, what if we stop the AI growth and start working on making humans more stupid? And this somehow is happening. The dependency on AI. What would be your comment on that?
So obviously what drives me as an AI researcher is the belief that AI can do everything that humans can do, and that on the long run, it can do better than humans in many, many aspects. And this is something that's been driving technology development for decades, right? The human can run, right? The human can move, but cars move much faster. So we've built machines that can easily outperform us, for example, on moving forward, right? On flying, on all of this, right? This, I think the greatest skill of humans in the animal kingdom is the ability to build tools. The other day I was on a safari in Africa, and I realized the human is one of the lamest creatures, right? If I were to be placed in the forest there at night, I would not survive 10 minutes, right?
Absolutely.
Because pretty much any animal can outrun me, any animal can outclimb me, and every animal has stronger teeth and can fight better than I can. So I realized, whoa, we as humans are really lame creatures. The only thing we're good at is building tools that help us. And we've been quite successful in that, and AI is one of these tools, right?
That's a very good analogy on that. Thank you very much, Daniel, for your time. And it's I love such insightful conversations. And I think we will see you very again soon as we started the series where we are actually going to industry experts, discussing them the next steps of AI, rather than just pushing our solution to the market. We also want to sit with experts and discuss with them what they see and where they see the future heading to. So once again, thank you very much for your time.
It's been a pleasure, Isan. Thank you
very
for
much.
having me.